No hate, no hype, no fear. We are TFR, your protection from deception.
What I am about to tell you sounds crazy, but you have to listen to me. Your very lives depend on it. This is not the end. You see, this isn't the first time. Now, we've had this conversation. What day is it?
Judgment Day. You just came in with the fresh recruits.
What is reality? What is reality? What is reality? What is truth? What is illusion? What are lies? We all perceive reality a little bit different from one another, but there are commonalities which we agree to call the truth. I claim to know nothing, but this is what they told me.
And welcome back to Perceptions Talk Radio, everybody. I'm your host, Jonathan, and yes, it's actually a live program this evening. With me, I have, he's not my wingman, he's my superior.
Oh, whatever.
The king of the Flat Earth movement.
Oh, my God.
All hail, Mark Sargent.
Fine, bend the knee.
I must genuflect in his presence.
I don't even know what that word means.
What?
What was that word you said?
Genuflect? Isn't that the right word? Like when you bow down and
Oh, is that what that is?
Yeah.
That's an old word.
Lower one's body briefly by bending one knee to the ground, typically in worship as a sign of respect.
You actually had that pulled up on your screen?
Well, I pulled it up after I said it to you.
Wow.
Sometimes I use words and I'm like, wow, that actually means what I thought it meant.
Wow. Thank you, by the way, for making an Orphan Red reference where she called me at the end of the show the King of Flat Earth.
I hear everything.
She's like, and she asked me in post. She said that, because she's going to do a slideshow of her own. I sent her the audio that she's going to do a slideshow of her own. She goes, "Is it okay if I make a picture of you with a crown on top?" I was going, "Oh, if you do, they're going to crucify me, but that's fine. Yeah, do what you want."
Okay.
Can
I take a shot at that too? Maybe that should be a contest. If everybody's listening tonight, find a still from one of Mark's videos and make your own King Mark video picture.
Oh, man.
How's that? Send them into Mark Sargent. What's your address, Mark? Your email?
It's msargent23. Don't send it to me. Oh.
Okay, wait. I need some email. You can send it to perceptionstalkradio@gmail.com, and we'll have a contest.
Oh, you're killing me. Really? And I can't edit this out because it's not my show.
It's live. That's the best part.
It's live. That's great. That's great. I suppose I should own it. Fine. No, I'm not going to make a video. Because honestly, if I went down that road, you know who I'd end up being like?
Mm-mm. Oh, no.
Well, our friend.
Oh.
God only knows who it is.
You mean we'd have to call you Lord Mark Sargent? Yes, my lord.
See, that's the problem with. I actually I like some of the work he does. I do, but the whole Lord Steve, whole Lord Christ thing, it's just too much.
Again, if I didn't respect like what he does, like for his beliefs and what he's put together, we wouldn't even be mentioning him. So
no, that is true. And his video work, his animation work is really, really good stuff. Yeah. And so I'm wondering, it's like, okay, what's the motivation here? Because he could turn it into something a lot bigger. But again, I've said it before on air. It's like he mucks it up on purpose. Like he's got a whole nother agenda. And I don't want to accuse him. I don't.
Here's a movie reference for you. Ready?
Yeah, shoot.
You're the worst concave earther I've ever heard of. Ah, yes, but you have heard of me.
That's not Princess Bride, is it?
No. Johnny Depp.
Oh, Captain Jack Sparrow. Duh.
Says you're the worst pirate
That's
ever.
That's from Pirates of the Caribbean 1, the original.
Yep.
Pirates of the Caribbean, by the way, which it's just it escapes me, how far we've come when it comes to entertainment. Because how many have they done? 4?
I don't even know.
Working on 5 of those things, and people don't realize it's not based off of anything. It's not based off of a book or a play or a musical or anything like that. It's literally, there's no plot. It's based off of an amusement park ride.
Isn't it? Yeah, isn't it because of the Disney ride? And they even
Disney ride. I've been on it many times. It's a beautiful. I've mentioned it in passing because it's a beautiful, beautiful ride, and it's from the '60s. But yeah,
my favorite is the ships when you get out there with the battle.
Yeah,
that part's so cool.
Oh, in the ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that gives you but that gives you the power of illusion. I was actually going to talk about that. I've talked about it on air, but I was going to talk about that in the Clue 12 that I did about illusion. And that is, I dare anybody to go on that ride. Remember, that ride's from the 60s?
Mm-hmm.
Go on that ride and get to that big part where it's out in the ships and find the seams. Find where where the water ends and the sky and the sky begins, because you're in a big soundstage.
Yeah.
And it's really, really well done. And I've gone on that ride multiple times just to see that when you finally open up into the harbor, it's beautiful. But that's really old technology. It shows you what we can do. Anyway, I digress. So,
speaking of staging, it'd still be interesting to have a big enough studio space or warehouse space where you can make, all these, not, I guess, theories or scientific experiments, or like Orphan Red is explaining, the sun, the moon, on a small scale. Just scale it all the way down. Even if you have to use a tennis ball for the sun, or a light bulb for the sun and a high bouncer for the moon.
Yeah.
And you scale it to that scale. And then in a big warehouse setting, I don't know how many feet you would need it to be.
Acres, probably.
Oh, would it have to be that big?
Well, I mean, you're talking about creating a replica of the flat Earth model?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, if I have to go back in time and I have $1 billion, I'm going to spend several $100 million to build a multi-acre flat Earth model with the whole 9 yards, with the air conditioning, simulating the jet stream at the top and the underwater conveyor system with pumps and even maybe a magma system. It would be so cool.
Right on. Well, no, because I'm just thinking, because people, that whole seeing is believing idea that we've always lived with.
Oh, yeah.
And so I'm wondering what's still going to be the clue, hands down across the board, that everybody kind of sees as the key central meme to this whole thing, for it to just collapse.
Right, the flat Earth gold rush clue, where that everyone's looking for on one side, and everybody's trying to shoot down on the other side. Yeah, the thing that everybody understands. And
I was going to say, for me, the current one is I guess the front runner, because it changes from time to time. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's the show me curved water. That's my favorite right now.
Yeah, it's really good. Plus, all the experts have really been going. I mean, the curve, again, ironically, was not one of the things I touched on in Flat Earth Clues, but it seems to be the one that everybody's gravitating towards. No pun intended there, because it's you can go anywhere and look at it. You can go to Toronto, you can go to Chicago, you can go to, the Hawaiian one they did recently at 90 miles. And it's they always use water as a reference. So yeah, you're right. And then I've ran into another post. Somebody says, oh, well, the water bulges here and there. I'm going, what? Water bulges? Where?
Oh yeah. Like in a glass or something, like when you have the surface tension or something.
Well, yeah, on a small scale, it bulges.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. A drop of water is shaped like a dome. But when you take a look at it with a microscope, but you're right. That's the one that everyone's kind of going towards right now. I don't know if anything else better is going to come up anytime soon. We'll see though. Cross my fingers.
The reason I say that too is because we've all played with water. We all understand water. We've all been in swimming pools, bathtubs, the ocean. So it's something that's easily accessible to anybody. Mm-hmm. Whereas the sun and the moon, and especially the light, when I start seeing these incredible diagrams and animations about light. Mm-hmm. It boggles my mind, because as a photographer, you well know, you can bounce light from so many different directions, and the key is that you want it to look natural. You don't want it to look like everybody standing there for a DMV photograph, of their driver's license. You want the light to look natural, right? And you want to be able to control it. So whether you have somebody standing, let's say, outside with the sun behind them and some flash in front, maybe you'll get that nice glow around, like a halo effect around their hair. What I'm saying is, there's so many anomalies with light, depending on what surface it hits and how it casts differently. So, have you ever seen a building late at night? There was this one building was really not famous, but you'd see it from the highway over here where I live. And when they built it, they used two-way glass, like mirrored glass.
Okay.
And so at night, if somebody had their office lights on, you could see right into their office. And it was kind of cool looking, but it was kind of stupid in design.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You're picking your nose, people are going to see it from the highway.
Yeah.
But what I'm getting at is, what if whatever, let's go with the firmament idea that it's there, the dome, whatever it's made out of, that when the sunlight hits it, because now, somebody called in yesterday about the sapphire. Maybe it's made of sapphire.
Yeah.
But what if it's made out of something that it disperses the light in a certain way, and so it's acting almost like a scrim or some kind of, it's diffusing the light and kind of spreading it in weird ways.
Oh yeah, yeah, and that's what Jeffrey Grupp was really going on lately, and that is that it's not just a structure. It's not just a dome structure. It's acting like one of those giant white umbrellas that you use in photography all the time.
Right. Exactly.
And he says, depending on only it's way more advanced, and it's a multi-purpose thing. So, when the sun's next to it, it acts like a reflector. But when the sun's not next to it, it's a straight up projection system. And wouldn't surprise me. Anything that advanced, you could do all sorts of fun stuff with. But that reminds me, by the way, because you were saying that photographers, being that was one of the things that you were really into, they're always looking for that natural look. They try to make it not like, real hot spots here and there. And that's what I always thought of when I looked at the moon photos, because at first glance, they didn't care about the rules of light. They just wanted to make sure the shot looked good. Like any advertising firm would do. It's like, okay, you're going to come. Uh-oh. Are we still okay? Jonathan? Jonathan is squeaking, and I don't know if we can hear anything. If anyone's out there.
You're there.
I am. What happened?
Wow, I don't know, man.
Was it a power surge?
I don't know what that was.
Was it an EMP?
What did it sound like on your end?
It sounded like somebody was going to drone strike you, but hit you with a sonic wave instead.
Yeah, that didn't feel good in my head either. Yeah. All right. I'm sorry. Keep going.
I swear I didn't call that op in. I swear it.
Okay.
So I wouldn't do that just to mess with you. Yeah, I would. What was that movie with Chris Pine and where they were both after Reese Witherspoon? And
they were both spies or something.
They were both spies.
I don't know the name of it. I only caught part of it.
And they were like reallocating tons of mission resources to just mess with each other constantly. I love that. I love that montage when they did that. They were just doing that. Anyway, I'm sorry. So as I was talking about the moon photos, and then all of a sudden we got disrupted, I'm sure total coincidence. What I was saying was, from a photographer's standpoint, you want to make it look natural. So when I looked at these photos, and that's why I always called them, I'm not the person that originated it, but they always said, the conspiracy people that said the moon photos weren't real, they always said, boy, those are some awfully pretty pictures. Meaning, if you bring a team in, you're a photographer, you're going to take shots of it, you don't want to make it look bad. Right. So It's like, what, let's set up the shot. This is going to be here. This is going to be framed here. This, you're going to move everything around just the way you want. You're going to go click, and everything looks great. But unfortunately, you kind of have to bend the rules just like you would in real life. When most people don't know, like when you're taking pictures of even models at the beach in an outdoor scene, there's a lot of exterior lighting and mirrors and reflectors and all sorts of fun things that they play with to get the lighting quite right. So even that isn't truly natural light. And that's what it felt like with the moon. When I looked at those shots, the lighting was wrong it looked good, but the lighting didn't match the environment. And I thought that was interesting.
Well, yeah, and the thing about it is, the sun, the high reflectivity of the moon, it's almost like a silver or some kind of bounce.
Yeah.
Whatever the material it's made out of, but yet it almost looks like it's backlit, like an LED light or something.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's so freaking bright. You can literally read a book by it, in a full moon condition.
Yeah.
And it feels different. If you want to say that you can actually feel it. There's a certain wavelength or certain sense, the color and all that. But typically when things reflect light like that, you can control sunlight to a degree, and you can get light on somebody's face with a bounce. Depending on the color, you can get sometimes I use my hand, for instance, and a little secret. I'll aim the flash upwards and I'll put my hand up, and because I'm Caucasian, it'll cast a warmer glow on the person, give them like a tan.
Yeah.
But I also carry a white glove in my pocket like Michael Jackson, and I put it above and use it the same way as a neutral bounce, and then I could just get pure, white light onto the surface area.
Nice.
So it's a good way to direct it when you're out and you don't have a wall or something to bounce off of, maybe, and you don't want to use a diffuser. But anyway, the reason I'm saying all this is because I'm constantly telling people. I was like, do you like sunsets? And like, yeah. Like, you like sunrises? Yeah. I was like, do you like the way the Grand Canyon looks at 5 o'clock with all the striations, different colors and everything like that? Yeah. I was like, well, how many light sources does the universe or God use? One. I was like, look how well it liked everything perfectly at all times. Like,
yeah. Funny thing about that. Oh, and I'll throw one more out at you because you were mentioning the reflectivity of the moon, which is if we all saw the Apollo missions up close, and it looked awfully dark gray, didn't it? Like gunmetal gray. Everything was kind of a dark gray. But yet, when you look at the moon under the full sunlight, it really, really glows. It's really, really bright. And so you're thinking, well, geez, when they were down there on the moon, didn't they kind of feel that sort of reflective glow? Shouldn't that thing have been really, really lit up? I'm saying even a lot brighter than what we.
You mean from a studio standpoint, the way we see those pictures, the way they're interpreted?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a very good point.
I'm sorry, but it's like, look, if it's reflecting that much light, I would think the astronauts would be kind of bathed in it.
Well, that's a good point, because if you think about it this way, now, if you were to color correct, because I always color correct in post, I use Lightroom or Photoshop, right?
Yeah.
You pick your white balance and you adjust accordingly. And you're right, those freaking astronaut suits, if I was going to touch up, something that's just like touching up somebody's teeth, you use a whitener, right? And you desaturate and you make them more white.
Yeah.
But those suits were ultra white compared to the moon, like you said, which was like a drab, almost like fashion gray background.
Yeah.
And yet, from what we see down here, you're right, it's super, super white, cool, probably around like 2200 Kelvin.
Yeah.
So that's a very good point.
Again, the moon thing for me has been so done for so long that now I just smile every time I see a little nuance, like the guy that released the video just recently where he was showing the moon buggy driving around, right? Because they were showing, and he increased the speed to 2.5, and it looks like a regular car just driving around.
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's like, yeah. It's no different than them walking around. You increase the speed, and again, it's the same Hollywood techniques we've been using for years, and that is you slow it down. And they did that in Capricorn 1 brilliantly. Right.
And not just that, but when you think of it back then, I mean, forget just the boxes that they were wearing on their chest, right?
Yeah.
It's supposedly look down into this, and these are made by Hasselblad. They're like the best quality, but nobody's ever shot in that environment, right?
Yeah.
And yet they seem to take, I forgot, 8,000 some odd pictures.
Yeah.
So many of which were like talk about tack on crystal clear, sharp, perfect pictures. All right. It's almost like the f-stop, which gives you your depth of field, right? If you set it to a higher number, you get greater clarity at a greater distance.
Yeah.
Okay. Including the foreground at times. So nobody shot a shallow shot like where you put a hand up and the hand is in focus, but everything behind it is blurry. It's called bokeh, B-O-K-E-H.
Sure.
Okay. They didn't have any of those kind of shots, so there was really no dramatic compositions. Everything was set at the maximum clarity, the maximum sharpness, accounting for the light. So the ISO was somehow factored in. I don't know if they had auto settings, and they obviously didn't have digital back then. It was all mechanical cameras, right? Manual settings.
Yeah.
They accounted for light. Like you couldn't even. It's not like anybody went out there with a little light reader and said, "Okay, let me just take a light reading and put it in front of the guy." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yet all these pictures came out perfect. Now, granted, you can develop to a degree in a lab and have some control over that if anybody works in a dark room in the past.
Sure.
But if you got highlights and it's all blown out because there's too much light flooding in, because that's what you're recording with a camera is light reflectivity, you can't put back what's not there, what doesn't register on the film. So what I'm saying is there should have been a lot more hot shots of like the light of the sun on the side of a helmet, like where you totally have white. You know what I should do? I should grab. Now you gave me an idea just talking about this.
Okay.
What a crazy spin on this one. I'm going to take NASA photos and I'm going to touch them up the way it should have looked if you or I shot or anybody else, any normal person shot it with all the highlights and burnout and bullshit. Well,
Yeah.
The way it should look.
Yeah. The stuff that's not supposed to be in there. Like I said, they're awfully pretty pictures. They're pictures that basically they knew were immediately going to go into Life magazine.
Exactly.
And so they had to be iconic. And because they figured out, okay, we're only going to release a limited number of shots, but they all have to be really, really good.
Yep.
But unfortunately, that was the only shots that were out there. That they didn't, it's like, what happened to all the crap shots? What happened to all the shots you're talking about, where there's blur here, or somebody's helmet got really, or their face mask really was blinding them because the sun was, they were looking at the sun. There should have been all sorts of shots like that.
And composition being key, there's not many things you can interact with if you're supposedly on the moon and all you have is moon rock and basically flat ground, right? And maybe a couple mountain ranges or hills in the distance, but your main props are what? The dune buggy, the American flag, another astronaut, and the lander.
And the capsule, yeah.
But they didn't have that in all the shots, and yet, like you said, it was shot as if somebody from National Geographic or Life or Time shot it in a studio and said, okay, let's set this up proper.
Yeah. It was almost like the photographer's arrogance got in the way, and that is,
you think?
Exactly. Well, yeah, I'm not gonna make. Nobody told them, or they assumed that they would try to do it on their own. It's like, don't make them perfect. That's what I would have told the guys.
Right.
Don't make these things perfect, and they did. They did the exact opposite, which was they made them too good to be true. And considering, again, who was taking the shots. Yeah, if an advertiser took them, that's exactly what they would look like.
Right.
But if an astronaut with a chest-mounted camera just clicking away, whatever.
Yeah, and I'll say, when I go to events, sometimes I'll check with other photographers. I'll say, just curious, what are you shooting at? And especially if it's an amateur, because a lot of times, the kids will have an A setting and they think it means awesome. It's auto, of course. Yeah. But I'll say, have you tried 5.6 ISO 200 at 160, shutters? And they're like, yeah, that's what this says. I was like, okay. So I'll laugh because, what I'm saying is I've done it long enough, based on the conditions and the lighting and the situation, what to set it to manually. Yeah. And they would not have that control on the moon. 3 astronauts would, like you said before, they'd be more concerned, is my suit going to puncture? Do I have enough oxygen?
Not dying, basically.
Yeah.
I don't want to die. Pictures would have been the last thing on their mind, honestly.
How much air did they have with them? Unlimited supply?
Yeah, exactly. Unlimited supply of air with I would have been checking the oxygen reserves constantly. In fact, that's the first thing I get down there. It's like, how much oxygen do we have? How long do we have until we have to take off again? And don't get me started on that. Oh, it's just ridiculous. But
Jesus Christ, Neil, forget the oxygen already. We got 7,864 more pictures to take.
Yeah. The attitude, and I know I've said this before, but it's so true, which is the attitude that they had on the moon, that nonchalant, singing, playing golf, let's drive around the moon buggy, let's not, mission time means nothing.
Right.
Are you kidding me? Yeah, and every time that they fell, it's like, fell, gotta get back up. It's like, are you kidding? No one's going to check their suit?
Did you ever see that it's really funny on YouTube, the real NASA tapes? And the guy's up there and he's like, mission control. He's like, holy shit, beep. I'm really on the effing moon. Beep. Yeah. I can't effing believe it. I'm on the effing moon. Beep. And that's how it would really go. I mean, this is blowing my effing mind. Beep. I can see the Earth.
My mind's blown absolutely would apply to these guys because, they get down there and really you look back at the Earth and you just don't have that freak out moment. Where it's like, oh man, which is, of course, in my opinion, one of the big reasons why you would never ever send astronauts up there. And that is because if something really bad happened, you're turning the moon into a tombstone. And it's nothing you can get rid of. So every time anyone looks up there, people go, oh, those poor astronauts. we lost 3 men in the first mission and another 3 trying to recover them. Sad day. And we'd have to have a national holiday just for the frickin' astronauts that died. And which is why you would never send them.
I'd like to know what the hell they made those rockets out of, because all the crap they're putting together now with all this technology, 2015 keeps blowing up, taking off the landing pad. It's like, really? Yeah. We can't get anything up in the sky anymore. Go back and build a Saturn missile or build, whatever they built back then.
Yeah. Where's the last big Saturn rocket that we've sent anywhere? We haven't. Oh, we send up shuttles now. No, you don't. You close those down too. How in the heck are we doing anything anymore?
Right.
And again, the Chinese thing, which drives me to freaking drink, which is for those of you who don't know, the Chinese have had a probe up there since last year, where they've got a rover just like ours, supposedly, that's like running around. That's what they're claiming anyway.
That's what they say.
That's what they say. And it's working, and it's taking pictures. It's like, okay, drive over to the Sea of Tranquility, go next to our Boone buggy, go next to the American flag, put your middle finger up, and take a great selfie. But they're not broadcasting any pictures. So what it reminds me, just like the JAXA program. The JAXA program, the Japanese probes sent HD cameras around the moon, and I even put that in that video, that kind of grunge video where it's like, okay, they're leaving the moon, they're coming back, great chance to do a whole full-blown Earth shot. You can just head towards the Earth, take a great shot as you're zooming in towards Earth. No, nothing. It's like, just... By the way, I know you're going to have to go break here in a second, but you caught that JPL thing I sent you?
Oh, that was hilarious. That was great.
Yeah, so there was a JPL lecture, I think, today, and a flat earther who was a listener of the show, he posts in the live chat, he goes, so does anybody, what did he say? Anybody watch Flat Earth Clues? It's like, yeah.
That was awesome. And they have. Some of them have.
Yeah, absolutely.
They're well aware. You know what? We didn't give out the number yet, and if the caller's listening, I'm going to wait because we're coming close to break within 2 minutes, and I want to give you fair time on air. But we'll give out the number right now. It's 866-37-TRUTH or 866-378-7884. So if you can hold on the line, caller, I'll bring you in here as soon as we come back for break. But we got about 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and I want to ask you, what else do you want to talk about tonight? Because we can go over. I know you're up on the flat Earth stuff, so we can address some new videos and things that's out that you want to bring people's attention to.
Sure.
Maybe additional mailbag stuff we didn't get to because we spent more time with Sasha. And I'm going to let you throw out more questions because I think you had more for me.
Yeah. I still had more questions for you because, I want people to understand that Jonathan is not everything that he says he is. He is more.
No.
Yes, he is. He's more.
All right. On that note, we'll be right back, everyone.
Radio Ranch with Robert Sales, Monday through Friday on Truth Frequency Radio.
And we're back, segment number 2 with Mark Sargent, my good buddy.
Yep.
And I'm going to just give a quick shout out to Sean, the missile guy, Navy guy. I was supposed to go down there and do some experiments with him this weekend, but I'm coming down with something, not feeling too good, so I had to cancel that. But I want to do an interview with him there and a few experiments. And then Mark or I'll have him back on, and who knows what from there. So Sean's listening. Sorry, buddy, but I'll reach out to you tomorrow. And we also have a caller who I told him over the break. We'll get him right away. So let me pick up that call now. And let's see. Caller, are you there?
Good day, mates.
Hey. Who are we speaking with?
What's a good word? My name is Hayden Hendricks. We are calling from Arkansas, Razorbacks.
Right on.
All right, well, let me get to the point, man. I've got a few things in my mind. I've been in since summer. A few things, if I could throw it out there so we don't waste time. Earth is at a 90 to 93.4 degree angle. You subtract that from 90, you get 66.6.
Mm-hmm.
The speed of the Earth around the sun is 66,600 miles an hour. And our solar system is traveling at 666,000 miles an hour. And I thought that was peculiar. I thought maybe that was a little inside joke for the authority? And the second question is, when I watch the astronauts float out in the space station, they really look like their necklaces are moving around real easy. Everything looks authentic. They go through the space station more than 30 or 40 seconds, so the jet can't really, that can't be explained. The wires would just have to be an amazing setup, but I was wondering, is there alternative gravity? And those were, and the last thing, the Schuller tuning. Have y'all heard of that?
Have not heard of Schuller tuning.
Okay, that is supposed to, it was an invention back in the 1920s that made up for the gyroscope's curve of the Earth. Now, I have no idea. There's a little math and science involved, but I thought it might be a little bit like the Corliss effect, where, it's one of those things they say that's there, but I just can't imagine how they could have an instrument in an airplane or submarine or whatever in a gyroscope that takes the curve of the Earth that they can't accurately tell where they're at or the speed. Anyway, those are 3 or 4 of the things I wanted to throw out and just kind of hear what you guys have to
Sure,
think.
you bet. The numerology thing in the beginning, yeah, that wouldn't surprise me at all. If you're going to build a solar system model and you are the authority, the inside jokes are always the best jokes, and building in numerology into the equations, sure. That wouldn't surprise me. The numbers you threw out there don't come as a shock at all. In fact, a couple of them I had already heard before.
It keeps people from looking deeper at it because they'll see it as an anomaly and say, "Oh, this is impossible."
Yeah,
Statistical improbability, and then of course the 666 reference to say, "Oh, forget it."
Yeah.
They would quickly be dismissive.
Yeah, it'll raise an eyebrow, but that's about it. Yeah, the common person on the street's not gonna make much of it. As far as the ISS, the what you mentioned, actually, those sections which you were talking about when they're flying through the station really, really fast, and it seems like it's really anti-gravity. Yeah, I have no doubt that those are being simulated in the Vomit Comet plane itself, and I can't remember if that's a DC-10 or DC-8 or whatever it is, whatever they're using. It's probably a modified military plane anywhere, or a modified commercial plane, where when they do their runs, when they go up real high and then make a nosedive, then they can simulate no gravity, 0G, for a little while, usually less than a minute, usually. But during that time, yeah, you could whip through the station really, really fast. And if you watch those videos where they're following them, the camera's following the person, and they're going through really fast, you also have to ask one thing, because I do think that's authentic 0G, but I think it's being in an airplane. But the other thing you got to ask is, why are there no doors between the sections? Because the reason why they do that is because they don't have time to open up doors and shut doors if they're going to be simulating 0G. They've got to fly through there as fast as they can, make it as convincing as they can, and hope that nobody notices that part. And for the most part, nobody did up until fairly recently. And only now, when we look at under a microscope, we say, oh yeah, there's some things missing, like, I don't know, airtight hatches between the segments.
There is, if I
ahead.
can add one thing, there is the power of quick editing. I mean, if they tell you they're broadcasting something live, all they need is, and they could always use that 7-minute delay thing, right? Or 7-second delay, whatever delay they want to build into it. Satellite interruption, whatever. So they can film it 15 minutes before and then just say, okay, this is coming to you live at this moment. And then they've already spliced together the 45-second, 50-second segments to make it look like one continuous.
Yeah, and to your point, I actually saw one where they went through like multiple sections of the station flying through, but there was this one little blurry black part in the middle, like where, the camera was like pinned against a wall, but it went pitch black, and I go, oh, okay, there's the cut right there. So it was like anti-gravity, 0G, 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 edit, and then you can go for another 45 seconds. So it was very clever, but it worked. But people were out there saying, see, this went longer than 45 seconds. It's like, yeah, but it wasn't a straight through shot. That black part, like in Hollywood, all you have to do is, like it is when they go from one room to the other, as soon as they get to that black part, the editor can do anything they want.
Or adaptive dissolve, where it dissolves from one scene to the next.
Yeah.
And they line it up as close as they could when people take their mark, and it looks like there's continuity, but...
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, and then the last part, as far as you're talking about the gyroscopes, look, I'm going to go with the experts on this, and everybody that we've talked to, both Jonathan and me on my show, when we're talking to Sean, for example, or the submarine chief, or the flight instructor. They all use, the same variations. Some are more expensive than others as far as the gyroscopes. They never talk about any sort of curvature mechanism. They always say, look, it's fixed. In fact, Sean was getting kind of irritated when we were asking questions because he couldn't make it any clearer. He's going, look, this thing doesn't change for anything. He goes, I don't care what's happening, around the world. He goes, this thing doesn't change. And if it did change, we'd notice it. So hopefully that answers all three of your.
Well, I was just going to say, caller, what was it specifically about the Schuler tuning, though, that you're asking? Or was it?
Well, it was supposedly some kind of equation or invention that made up for the curve of the Earth. I was like, how could they incorporate that if you're constantly moving and they didn't have any kind of GPS to say, well, I've gone to this mile. And I thought, that'd be really difficult. And the last part is a biblical reference is Isaiah chapter 40, when they mentioned the circle not being a sphere. The only other place in the... Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The only place in the Bible that the word ball is used is in Isaiah, but it's talking about God throwing people like a ball. And in Isaiah chapter 40, when he does mention the circle, it is a rebuke to the people he's speaking to, saying, don't you remember what God did? Don't you remember how he created us? And he's basically, it sounds like he's saying, don't believe the other cultures or this newfangled thing called the globe. Remember what God said in Genesis, 2 Peter chapter 5. It's the same thing. He's rebuking, reproving, trying to correct them, saying, hey, remember what God did? He separated the waters. And, I mean, it's amazing to find out that when he does mention it, he's trying to tell the people, hey, remember what God did? Don't buy into this newfangled idea of the sphere and the universe and space and all that. He's saying, remember what the Lord did in the beginning.
Yep, I agree. He who sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the earth is fixed, the earth is immovable, and goes on and on and on. And for those who don't understand what we're saying, please check Rob Skiba's work out or his website called testingtheglobe.com. He goes through literally every chapter and verse that references this.
And speaking to Sean off air the other day, he mentions in Joshua 10 where he talks about the sun standing still as well as the moon. How do you stop the sun and the moon?
Yeah, much easier to do in an enclosed system, I can guarantee you that.
And when it's mechanical or something.
Well, when it's mechanical, like Pirates of the Caribbean. Only better.
Well, the folks I tell at church, the few that I have, they raise their eyebrows, and I say, I believe the model of the biblical reference and how the earth was created. I don't say the F word, of course, flat.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, it's going to come to a head eventually. Anyone that claims to be a Bible literalist, they're not going to be able to run and hide from this too much longer. So
that's it. You guys are awesome. Keep up your great job, and we'll be listening there every time.
Cool, man.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much for calling in.
Peace in the Middle East.
All right. Peace.
I thought he was going to say peace and chicken grease.
Right on.
Oh, by the way, I think it was Sean that hit you with that sonic thing. I think he hit you with a beam radar. More specifically, a 2-inch beam radar from range.
He says he's working with Sparrow missiles, but no.
No. Well, no, he probably is, but he probably all he had to use his navigation system and target your neighborhood.
He's got friends at HARP.
Probably does.
Yeah. Hey, we got another call. I'm just going to take people as they're calling in because we could always talk all night.
Oh, sure.
So, let's see. Caller, you're on the air.
Yes, hello.
What's going on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, it's David. I'm calling you from Frankfort, Kentucky.
Right on.
Been awake to the flat earth since that summer, generally awake to 9/11 and stuff since like 08, 09. One question I ran across today and I thought you guys might have the answer, I hope. Have you heard about this Antarctica race around the continent of Antarctica?
Yeah, I've had a couple. Yeah, a couple people have sent that to me recently.
Supposedly, I looked at it a little bit today. It's like a 14,000 kilometer race, supposedly around the continent. Can y'all fill in on anything on that?
Yeah. There was one guy that sent it to me specifically, and he said he was a little worried. He's going, "Hey, this thing looks like a real race, and they could circle this thing in like 100 days or whatever it was going to take. I think the world's record is 102 days, but." Then he comes back. He goes. He sent the course link and said, no, it's actually not a full circle around Antarctica. It's only a horseshoe. They're only going from one point to the other. And from what I understand, they're not actually going to be circling anything, which that's what I would expect.
They're in the Southern Ocean. They're not going around the continent.
No,
Right.
no. From what I understand, they're not going to actually go around the continent. And that, again, makes sense because it would be impossible. You can't circle it. I mean, you could circle it, but it would take so freaking long that, you couldn't actually, I don't think this is televised or anything. We won't even know how much they're going to give it coverage. But, yeah, good point. Excellent point. People want to look that up, the Antarctic race.
Yeah, if they were actually going around Antarctica, it would be like 60,000 on the flat Earth model, right?
Yeah, it'd be huge.
Miles.
Yeah, it'd be monstrous.
So,
And in fact, it was one of the things, it's one of the huge disparities between the flat Earth model and the round model, and that is the Antarctic coastline has to be huge, multiple times farther around than the actual perceived continent of Antarctica. So it's the one thing. It is really the hard proof, but it's unfortunately it's very, very tough to get a hold of because you can't really get within so far of the coastline without special permission or permits. And plus, what are you going to do it with? If you take two boats, it's going to take months. And if you use a plane, well, it may have to stop to refuel. Plus, you have to rely on the GPS system, which was created by the DoD. So good point. Like it. Thanks.
That sounds like a good answer. I mean, I had thought that just real quick that maybe they had some island they were sailing around and calling it Antarctica, but it sounds like they're just going around the ocean down there and just acting like they're going around out of Antarctica, right?
Yeah. It doesn't sound like it's going to be much of anything, and but it's a great little pitch because that would show some people. It's like, well, it's not like they're keeping people away from Antarctica. It's like, well, that's not exactly true. This boat race is going to be extremely monitored. Plus, if I'm not mistaken, there's sailboats on top of it. That'll make it. Yeah.
Yachts, I think they are pretty good sized yachts as well.
They're full blown yachts.
20, 30 foot, they're like 30-foot yachts. Is what I was looking at.
That's weird because the pictures I was seeing looked like they were big sailboats, but I could be wrong. Maybe there's more than one. Who knows?
So what are they going to say? They're going to tighten in the parameters, set the course, and then they're going to blame it on it's going to be too dangerous for people to go around the whole.
There's all sorts of fun things you could do with that one. You could mess up the weather to where they get halfway or a third and say, well, weather conditions, they had to stop the race for a while because these are not fun seas if you're gonna do that sort of race.
Right.
Plus.
Sailing in the world, right? It's that part of the world that there's the hardest weather to sail in, right?
Yeah. Plus the bigger thing.
I appreciate y'all.
Oh, no worries.
I'll go ahead and get offline. I appreciate y'all. Keep up the good work, okay?
Thank you. Right on.
All right.
He brings up a great point, and I always thought it would be too freaking dangerous to go around the whole thing.
Well, yeah, that's one of the negative reinforcements of it. It's the most hostile place in the world to do any shipping.
Right.
And between the treaty that's in place, which doesn't allow people, I can't remember what the range is right off the top of my head. Probably should memorize that, of how many miles you can be within shore. They also say you can't smoke or drop anything off your boat or carry excess fuel. I mean, they're treating it like this pristine condition, but for me it's a moot point because they still don't allow commercial airliners to fly over it. And why does that not happen anymore? Again, that's one of those points that people don't talk about.
Well, the other thing is now if the sun is local, like some of the diagrams show, and it acts maybe as a heat lamp, it's electric and all that.
Yeah.
Then if it never really gets to the fringe areas of the outer part of the flat Earth, right, in a circle, so it will be colder around the edges, or is it cold beyond the dome?
Because well, it would definitely be cold because if you follow Jeffrey Grubb's model, where he says the dome is really, really stretched far beyond, it's not within a couple hundred miles of shore. If it's a couple thousand miles away from shore, then that place would be horrible. That would be awful. The sun wouldn't really. It would be a constant. It would be the above the wall in Game of Thrones type stuff, where it was just permanent winter out there. So, which it seems like it is anyway, because most of it's above 10,000 feet. And anything, most people don't know that like above 7,000 feet, you don't really get rain. You get a little bit of rain every once in a while, but most of the time it's snow because of just the altitude conditions.
Good
I
point.
only knew this because I was out in Colorado. And my friend said, yeah, we never get rain up here. We only get snow.
And you know, when you start talking about this and you start thinking about what we're really existing in, right? Because we refer to life as a simulation, inside a snow globe, and so on and so forth. I don't know why this came to mind. You know, when you buy a fresh salad and it's in a Tupperware container or some kind of plastic container,
Yeah.
and if you leave it in the fridge, it eventually molts and turns black or whatever, you know, because you didn't eat it in time.
Why didn't you eat it in time?
Well, I'm just saying that because
okay.
I buy it with intentions to eat it, but I forget. But what I'm getting at is like, if we're inside this firmament and this enclosure, right?
Yeah.
It keeps us pretty fresh in here. Whoever's regulating the temperature, like dead bodies kind of get funky.
But it doesn't get, you're right, it doesn't get that bad in here. Everything's, well,
it doesn't get stuffy. I mean, yeah, we get some humidity in New Jersey, but like it always seems to like equalize. Somebody's got a really good pulse on the AC and the heat, you know. It doesn't have these incredible swings, like, you know.
Yeah, you're right. It's very, very well balanced. I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted because I keep thinking of the uneaten salad. That makes me sad. What kind of salad was it?
I think it was romaine lettuce. I don't know. It was just something simple. But you know what? I'm being a little funny, but at the same time, not, because, you know, it's like when you put on the AC or the heat in your car, right? You know, if you open the window in the wintertime and you get the heat on in the car, you're going to feel the heat on you, but, you know, you're getting fresh air coming in, maybe to keep you awake. We've all driven in the winter where you need the windows open, right? But in the summertime, if you had the AC cranking, it feels good on you, but then immediately it's going out the freaking window.
Yeah.
So, like, when you think about space in the current model, if there's no firmament, it's like, well, what keeps everything in?
Oh,
like,
don't get me started with that. No. There's been a lot of people that have said, why is, you know, the vacuum, because we've all felt a vacuum. There's wonderful YouTube videos where you can lift huge amounts of weight with just vacuum, the suction power of a vacuum. If that pure vacuum of space is out there, then where exactly, why isn't it bleeding off our atmosphere off at a really quick rate? Why isn't it, you know, unless our atmosphere is treated like water tension, like a single drop of water, where it's atmosphere and then there's this weird equilibrium between that and the vacuum? That doesn't make sense.
Or whatever the density is, like clouds can only raise so high, and then it creates like a ceiling level because water wants to fall back down when it gets weighted, just like regular clouds, right? They're actually, I think there's like 1 million some odd gallons when you see a big fluffy cloud.
Yeah.
That's 1 million and something, you know, gallons of water just floating. And so if it all came down at once when there's a torrential downpour, that's, what is it, 8.2 pounds per gallon, 8.4 pounds per gallon?
8.35, but that's okay.
Yeah. So it's like, that's a pretty heavy cloud.
It is a pretty heavy cloud. But you know, the people that try to debunk this, they say, well, you know, gravity's holding the atmosphere down. I was going, really? Because gravity isn't... gravity's strong and everything, but to counteract that against the vacuum of space, I don't know. You're saying it's a perfect. They're basically saying it's the amount of gravity we have is a perfect equilibrium to the vacuum of space, and I'm just not buying it. The odds of that happening are, I don't know. That's about as nutty as, let's say, if the moon it rotated completely in sync with the Earth, so we only saw one side of it exactly.
Well, we think of vacuum of space. We always think of it from the standpoint, like when we see the movies and the person blows open the door or the pressure lock, and then they get sucked out into space.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We've all seen the movies, and they get sucked out fast.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Really, really fast. The power of a vacuum is amazing. But yeah.
But other people are saying that, okay, so the Earth isn't necessarily pressurized. It's all just equilibrium.
Yeah.
At every layer.
Yeah, at every layer, it's at a perfect equilibrium, and therefore atmosphere doesn't bleed off. I mean, we technically, honestly, let's face it, we should not even exist if it is what they describe it is, because vacuum would have ripped the atmosphere just right out of here.
All right, so let me get this straight. So everything that operates at sea level or at flat level,
yeah, flat level, yeah,
is where all the action happens. When you go too deep below a couple fathoms, you're crushed by the pressure of the water.
Yeah.
Or by the compression of the heat of the Earth itself. You can only go so far down where you start to suffocate and feel the heat and everything like that.
8 miles or 12 kilometers, yeah.
Right. And you can only go so far up before it gets thinner and same effect.
Barely even 18,000 feet, which is, 3 miles.
Was that where you started having problems breathing?
Oh, God, no. You have problems breathing at people first start getting altitude sickness at about 8,000 feet, 7,000 to 8,000 feet. And then, like, when you're climbing Everest, unless you're a Sherpa or something, you need oxygen tanks above 18,000 feet. Even the most hardy guys need it. Yeah, so that's 3 miles.
So they really couldn't open a window on a 747 going to LA. Like, that has to be a pressurized cabin.
Oh, absolutely it does. Yeah. And they pressurize it at 5,000 feet, meaning they pressurize it at an atmosphere of 5,000 feet usually. And I checked this because I had a pressure gauge on my watch when I used to travel.
Wow.
And it was always between about 4,300 and 4,900 feet roughly. So because if you go any higher than that, you could actually get altitude sickness in a plane.
Right.
But yeah, with that, and the temperature is unbelievably cold. You'd never, open a window. Come on.
Right. And thankfully, water is super stable.
Yeah.
Right. Hydrogen being the most abundant element in the world, and then oxygen to go with it.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we need oxygen. Yet there's a perfect amount of oxygen all of it. I mean, if there was more oxygen in the atmosphere, I think even a few more percent, things would just start to combust on their own. Everything would ignite. I think if it was like 25%.
I'd have to look. That's a good one though. That's a good question. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, the reason I bring this up is because I laugh and I don't mean to laugh at people, but when there's people that don't believe in a God or believe in a creator or an architect, a designer, a programmer, whatever you want to call it, I look at all these variables and think, man, there's so many freaking things that should go wrong or could go wrong. And yet you're telling me these precise calculations happen at every level, at every fathom, at every altitude, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like there should be some danger zones. Where you kind of like you're out in the plains and it says don't cross this line and you cross over it and it's like a field of methane. It's just literally like or a field of oxygen and.
Yeah. Oh well, I'm sorry. There is one danger zone out there.
Where's that?
That's the what was that thing called? Oh right, the Van Allen radiation belt.
Oh
yeah, that that thing, that big huge band of radiation that's deadly to everything that's human and kills everything on sight, and yet Apollo 8 through Apollo 17 went through it and back and nobody got hurt.
Huh?
Remember that one?
I forgot about that one.
Yeah, I guess nobody read the sign.
Oh well.
When I went up there, the danger zone, that danger zone. Yeah, that's probably nothing. I mean, what could possibly go wrong flying through a massive radiation belt with no shielding?
No.
I mean, I'm sure they're fine.
And that recent video in talking to go to Mars, they discussed that. We're finally figuring out ways to go through the Van Allen belt. Right?
Yeah. The Orion project.
The Orion project.
Yeah, the one that's currently live. It's ridiculous because they actually go on video and say that, oh yeah, by the way, we're still trying to deal. We're the first stuff we're going to send up is unmanned because we still haven't figured out how to deal with the radiation. I'm going, wait, what year? I actually had to check the year of the video. I thought somebody was messing with me when I first saw it. I was going, wait, this is 2015. This is now. How are they having problems with radiation supposedly?
What a great time for the flat Earth to become mainstream, huh? It's almost like a monkey wrench in the works.
It is.
It is.
It is. It's well, yeah. Social media has really changed it. The speed of because social media is running so quickly now that it's just permeating everything, and there's nothing mainstream can do they can't counteract it. So, watching everybody tweet, it's only going to be a matter of time though before somebody influential happens to mistweet, say something without thinking about it. It's like, what's all this hogwash about the flat Earth, right? Yep. It's got like 10 million followers, and then it'll just explode.
Well, we're coming down to the end of this break. I want to give out the number again so people can call in after. It's 1-866-37-TRUTH or 1-866-378-7884. And I can't believe it's been an hour already.
I know. We haven't even gone through the mail from my secretary's desk yet.
All right, well, there's the music. So maybe when we get back, we'll do that first if there's no calls.
You are now tuned into the truth frequency.
We are TFR. TFR.
Truth Frequency Radio.
Doesn't need no opera here for the operation. We don't need bigger knife. Yeah. 'Cause they got guns, we got guns, we got guns, we got guns. You better run. Killing strangers, we're killing strangers, we're killing strangers so we don't kill the ones that we love.
And we're back, second hour. It's going quick. Here with Mark Sargent, and we haven't even gotten to the mailbag yet. And
We haven't even gotten to the questions I was going to ask you.
how many questions you got?
I still got like 5 or 6 questions.
Oh, okay.
Including why you know so many languages, or bits and pieces of many languages.
I don't know about that.
The agency taught you Russian, didn't they? That's all right. You don't have to tell me. Uh-oh. God, I say that, and then Jonathan gets hit with a sound wave again.
Are you kidding me?
Wow.
What the? You said the moon before, and it did that. What the? Oh, you have no idea how bad that hurts.
I'm so sorry. Well, it's coming through your headphones, but not mine.
Jesus. What does it sound like on your end?
Oh, it just sounds like this weird kind of reddish sound. If sound has a color, you know. Kind of
Oh, you have synesthesia? Is that it?
like a high pitched whine.
It feels like a lobotomy going through my ears from stereo.
Sorry, I am not doing it. I swear.
All right, I'm gonna get you, whoever it is. I'm gonna get you. They're sitting out in a van right now with a radar dish. It's like we used to do. We used to take microwaves and you take off the doors and stick a screwdriver in the thing so it would work, and put it right up to somebody's house and scramble their TV and stuff.
It sounds like a radar signal when I'm listening to it from this side, like a ping, like a really strong ping.
Interesting. Hey, listen, we got a caller real quick. Let's do that, and then we'll answer your questions and whatever. All right, caller, you're on the air.
Hey, what's going on, guys?
What's going on?
On my cat. Sorry. Hey,
wait. What's your
I know
cat?
you guys checking Gianna.
Cool. Right on.
Yeah, it's she's a Russian blue. She's all gray. If you're a Farscape fan, you'll get it. Anyway,
Nice.
I do the Check Flat Earth on YouTube every day. You know, seen the new stuff that's coming up, and I'd seen Jesse Spots was kind of going on a tangent today, and something about star gods doing some exodus to Antarctica. This got me thinking. I don't know if you've checked into that or heard about this.
I have
trying to get out there and okay. Well, if we're going with the flat Earth model, as it's like a record, being on a record player, why do you have to even go to Antarctica? This should be really simple for us to calculate. I'm a landlubber, I don't own a boat, but anyone who travels the seas could do this by simply going 10 degrees above and 10 degrees below the equator and just follow that line. You could go off of the coast of, go across the Atlantic, and that distance should be longer than what it would be on a globe model.
Yeah, you're right.
You don't have to go all the way to the worst ocean in the world. You only have to go 10 degrees above, 10 degrees below.
Oh, that's a good point.
If the math is longer on the below the equator, then our model is correct. If it's the same both direction, 10 degrees above, 10 degrees below, Simple. Then it's the ball.
You're saying maintain your heading and course and speed, and then do the calculation from that.
Stay on that.
Yeah.
Just to calculate the mileage, and you would have to stay on that parallel, on that line.
Yeah.
And it would be a curved line on our model, but it'd be no different than if you put a record on a record player, it's going to go, the track on the outside, it takes longer to get around that than it would the track on the inside of the record.
Excellent.
You can calculate that measurement.
Yeah.
And basically what they're telling us with the AE map is, well, you put it over a ball and you put it on, put the North Pole on the top of the ball and you wrap it around and connect it at the bottom.
Yeah.
So that would give you equal distance, 10 degrees above and 10 degrees below the equator. If it's a flat, round, flat Earth map, then it's going to be longer distances, which again gets into, one of your clues on the flights don't line up.
Yeah.
And okay, yeah, that's great, but I don't own an airline. You don't own an airline. We can't do that. But there are plenty of people who travel across the ocean in their own boats.
Yeah. Yeah, good. Excellent point.
This could be done, and instead of having to go to these extremes of get to Antarctica and travel across the ice. Look, dude, I don't want to go on the ice. I like warm weather. You guys want to go to Antarctica and find the dome? That's great. I already believe, that I've found the proofs necessary for me to know what's up there, and that I can do that on my own. But for the people who need the proofs, they go to these extremes like it's not necessary.
Excellent point.
It's right there.
You're right. And if anyone didn't understand what he was saying, basically the azimuthal equidistant projection, if that is literal, then all you have to do, 10 degrees is fine. 10 degrees a circle above the equator, 10 degrees circle below the equator. If it's a globe, they should be the exact same distance. But if it's the AE map, the one below the equator should be significantly longer than the one than the
and you could even it'd be the same distance if you're having equal points. We don't need equal points. All we need is go look on a map or the globe that they tell us it is, and just go from like Recife, Brazil, over to somewhere correlating on whatever parallel in Africa. Yeah. Calculate that distance. Well, what's it supposed to look like on a globe versus what you actually do. There's your direct proof.
Excellent.
That's really good.
And the only drawback, and I'm not going to try to be a wet blanket here. The only drawback is whoever's going to do it has got to figure out a way of doing it without using the GPS. Too much as a crutch, because the GPS is going to tell you that it's the same distance.
No, not as a crutch, Mark. No, not at all. You have to go with star charts. Because you put GPS in, you're talking, well, the proof is NASA. It's the same ballpark, baby. Yeah. We've got to go with what the ancients would have used, because that is using our individual perceptions.
Good one.
Which is what we need. And I thank you, Mark, because that's your videos, the last one, The Real Eyes. Yeah. That's what it is. Our Creator would not have created us without the perception ability to know where we were, and to know you're not moving. I mean, this is simple 101 stuff. And when I explain to people about this, I just ask them simple questions like that. Do you feel anything moving?
Yeah.
But yet, if you're asleep in a car and it comes to a stop and you wake up, why? Because you felt the movement stop.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Simple stuff like that. And also, because I drive a lot, and I grew up in northwest Kansas. I've seen a lot of flat land, and I felt kind of stupid about the whole flat earth thing when I started realizing when you're driving in long distances in flat lands, your major point of reference as to where you are is water towers.
Ah.
And if you are on a ball, and if you want to prove this to anybody listening, this is really simple. You grab any ball, put your finger on the ball, and then roll the ball with your finger held in place towards the person.
Yeah.
And explain to them, if this was a water tower, I would see the underside of the water tower first. If we were on a constant curve.
Oh, that's a good point.
What do you actually see? What you actually see is the top, the light at the top, or the name. You see the top, and that has to do with how our vision works. But I just show it to people, and I mean, it stops people dead because you take the ball, put your finger on it, and just roll it towards them. Say, see what you should see? Now go out and do it and see what you actually see. Compare the two.
Good one. Nice.
Do you see why Art Bell used to go on late at night and get calls from truck drivers and things like that? Like, they see more of the world. They observe more things.
Yeah, no, I try to tell people it's with the flat Earth thing, and people say, "Oh, shouldn't the flat Earth thing wind down?" Are you kidding? I know new things every day now, and it's not coming from me. Yeah. It's coming from everybody that's out there. It's the internet hive mind. It misses nothing. So,
but that's a great.
I did have one other thing.
Go ahead.
Sure.
Oh, good. Well, I had an experience back in the early '90s, and all I did was install. But I did install the big dishes, the big satellite dishes, before the little dish took over. In fact, it was the little dish that drove us out of that business. Mm-hmm. And I remembered that my grandparents had one of the original big satellite dishes back in the very early '80s. And you'd have to get up and turn the dial, and the whole dish would move. And one time I was doing this, and I caught a feed in between going from one satellite to another satellite. Mm-hmm. And I caught a feed for the Golden State Warriors basketball network, the live feed. Now, it didn't catch me then. I'm a kid. But today, when you guys were talking with Sean about satellites and how they work, and I started thinking back when I used to put them in, and when we were doing you install the big dish, you had the G5 and the G3. Well, you'd have to line up your dish. Okay, is it there? Good. How's my signal? Good. Go to the next one. Okay, and you're physically moving the disc. Okay, it is pointing in another physical direction. Mm-hmm. So the Golden State Warriors had their own satellite in the early '80s.
That's a good point. Really good point.
And so when we switched over to the small dish, my stepfather, who I worked with, he was the one who really understood the whole business. And what they were doing, and the problem that we were having, is it was about compressing the signal. To go from the big dish to the little dish, they had to compress the signal down, smaller and smaller. Mm-hmm. Now, if they were putting up towers, which I know they were all throughout the 80s, again, I grew up in Northwest Kansas, then things went springing up everywhere in the 80s, that would have been the preparation for the small dish. Because I'm thinking now, with the big dishes, and I'd love to hear Sean's opinion on this, with the difference between the big dish and the small dish, is that did they transition over? Because it's another one of those things is when they first thought about it, no one's going to think anything about the ball, right? So we don't have to worry about it. But as we go forward, we're going to have to clean this one up. Because if you just start catching feeds of just random stuff, somebody's going to ask a question. Because it's not like changing the dial on my radio. Yeah, I'm having to point this at a total nother object. The dish physically moves. Yeah. So I'm not picking up something else on that satellite feed. No, I'm picking up a whole nother signal. Where is that coming from? Yeah. So, one of your allegations that, they didn't commercialize the Antarctica might be incorrect. And I thought about it and I went, well, God, they gave everybody a coordinate. Maybe they sold parts of the wall, like billboard space. You point here, you pay this much.
Wow.
And as soon as we can get the towers in place and compress it, then we can own it, because RCA sunk basically their entire company into the small dish. If it hadn't gone over, they would have been out of business.
Sure.
So, I mean, this is just a couple things that I'd thought about for a while. And also the fact that I thought of another thing, not to be saying you're wrong a lot, Mark, but we didn't become the first people to know what was in the upper atmosphere. America was not the first. The Russians were not the first.
Okay.
Who were the first people to put rockets into the upper atmosphere?
Oh, the Germans.
One country.
Yeah.
Bingo. So if the Nazis knew, replay World War II in your head now with that knowledge.
Yeah, they were the only ones that did expeditions in Antarctica during World War II. They were the only ones down there.
And they were first in the North Pole, and then they swung and went south, kind of like Admiral Byrd.
Admiral Byrd followed their path, basically.
You mean the real Germans or the house?
And if they would have gotten up high,
the real,
if they get up high enough, they look down.
Do you mean the real Germans or the House Windsor that changed their name?
No, the actual the Nazi Party in this case.
The Nazi Party. I shouldn't put down German people. It's the Nazi Party that knew.
It's all right.
Right.
Cool. Cool.
But,
right on,
but
man.
Those guys would have known.
Yeah.
It's just like you don't call
anyway.
You don't call old time Russians Soviets. It's like always remember Perestroika.
In Russia, man.
Sorry, man.
I do not know.
Hey, you're the one with the CCCP song.
I do have a thank you for bringing that up. Now people are going to ask me what the CCP song is. Great.
Anyway, we got another caller, so thank you for your comments, man. Call back again.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a great show.
Okay.
Definitely.
Awesome.
All right. Bye-bye.
That was interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, let's take another one.
Before you take this call, here I want to read something to you really quick because I forgot this. There was, because I remember I said the internet. He reminded me of this. The internet hive mind misses nothing, and if there's any piece of media out there that mentions its flat Earth recently, they're going to find it, right? So some guy wrote me and said, wrote us, I should say, and said the new season of Hemlock Grove, and I never watched it. I think Famke Janssen's in that.
Okay.
Hemlock Grove was released on the 23rd of October, right, on Netflix. It's a Netflix exclusive series. And he goes, I watched it on episode 7 titled Todos Santos. And I actually downloaded this and watched this. So this was episode, the last season, or this current season, episode 7. You can hear it on the radio at the beginning of the episode. So the two main characters are driving in a van. And on the car radio, you hear like a talk radio show going in the background. And the talk radio shows this quote, and this is verbatim. I just have one thing to say to all the flat earthers and anti-science kooks out there. Put the crack pipe down. Of course we've been to the moon.
Wow.
I know, and that was the line. I'm watching this thing on my computer. I was going, really? Really? That's what you're going to throw in there? It's like you wonder if the writers, again, put it in there just to get a dig. The writers are looking for material and saw some YouTube videos and decided to put it out there. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Anyone wants to watch, download, put it up on YouTube. I wasn't going to, but episode 7, Hemlock Grove of this season that was aired on the 23rd. Anyway,
just that one clip. That'd be good.
Yeah, let's take Justin. Sorry.
No worries. I want to get another call in. Let's see, possibly Canada. I don't know where they're from. California. You're on the air.
Hi, this is Brian with Humana Story. I got a question for Mark Sargent.
Do it up.
Hey, Brian.
Okay. Hey, what's up, Mark? Okay.
Hey.
So I had a user actually write me, and he was talking about the moon temperatures. He said, with proper equipment, you can show that the moon is a different type of light than the sun, and is actually a cooling light. You can ask any of your guests to do this measurement, and the moon is supposed to be a reflection of the sun, when in fact it's its own light source. So this can be demonstrated by placing two objects with the same material, preferably something metallic that conducts heat and cools well. You can do it outside, and if you place one in the shade of the moonlight and one directly in the sun, you get two different temperatures. So the question here is why?
Excellent question.
It's all mechanical.
It's all, well, yeah, that is because and I did not touch on this in the clues, but it is, in fact, it's a fairly recent thing in the flat earth movement, which is somebody figured out, and there's some great videos out there. One is by Sandy. That's really a good one, where he actually puts copper strips out in moonlight and in the shade. And Jeffrey Grupp also did the experiment, the hardest working brain in flat earth. And for those of you who are listening to this for the first time, it's really, really interesting. We all know that if you're in direct sunlight, let's say it's 100 degrees, it's probably 90 degrees in the shade, roughly, right? But depending on where you are. But in the moonlight, so it's cooler in the shade when you're in the sun, but in the moonlight, let's say it's 50 degrees in the moonlight, it's like 55 degrees in the shade. It's actually warmer in the shade than it is in the moonlight, which indicates that the moonlight is a cooling light. It's like a cool laser, because that's the only thing we can simulate with it in technology. I'll give Jonathan the credit on that one. But what was interesting was, and I put this thought out on air one day, and I said, well, if you magnified the moon's light, would it actually get warmer? Would it actually get colder? Like you were trying to refrigerate, and that kind of goes along with the cool laser. And sure enough, the tests that have been done on video, you can look it up on YouTube, a focused moonlight beam is even colder than normal moonlight beams. And normal moonlight beams are warmer than the shade of the moonlight, which goes completely against what we're taught, because if the moon is reflecting the sun's rays, then it should be reflecting some of that radiation at the very least, even if it's just a tiny fraction of it. It shouldn't go the opposite direction and suck heat out of things. So to your question, is it a mechanical system? Yes, I absolutely believe it's a mechanical system. I think the moon is self-illuminated, and it is projecting some sort of cooling laser to let you know, an LED. So if the sun is like an incandescent light bulb, then the moonlight is some sort of cool LED, which is just mind-boggling to me. What the purpose of that would be? Why would you design it like that? Or unless it was just, okay, well, this is the only way we can get a light up in the sky at night without actually, heating things up. Maybe it has something to do with temperature, that they want to balance things out. But yeah, it's fascinating. So yeah, I do think it's a mechanical system. I think the moon is a cooling mechanical object. No doubt in my mind. Does that sort of help?
All right. So I've got one more question that actually came through too.
Okay.
Okay. This one is a rotation. This is a rotational issue, because you guys were just talking about, just before the hour, you guys were talking about Earth, and I tried to jump in when I heard you guys talking about it.
Okay.
So this one could be for Jonathan as well. I know he's your wingman.
No, he's not.
Okay, so
it's his show. It's his show.
You're his wingman on this show. You know what? Robin will never be Batman, no matter how hard.
All right, go ahead. What's the question?
Mark's got the riot shield. I hide behind Mark. That's how I deflect all these bullets.
Okay, first off,
so funny.
I had a few people ask if I was Kermit the Frog, and I'm not, and I'm not Ray Romano. So I just want to get that in the open.
I could have sworn it was Ray Romano.
So. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, so the rotation is, according to the globe model, the Earth spins at 1,040 miles per hour at the equator. We are also spinning around the sun at 67,000 miles per hour. Mm-hmm. And if this is not enough, we're whirling around the universe at a staggering 490,000 miles an hour.
Okay.
The Earth's orbit around the sun is not a perfect circle. It's an elliptical pattern.
Sure.
If you have ever water skied, you will notice a huge change in force on the shorter and long parts of the elliptical curve. Here's the question. Why is it that we don't notice any change in force on the long or short parts of the elliptical curve moving at almost 500,000 miles an hour?
And that's the question.
This is for, it would also go to the flat Earth theory. I mean,
yeah, because it's flat. The
reason realize it.
Yeah. The reason why, if the Earth is an elliptical orbit, that means that there's going to be parts where the orbit's going to speed up or slow down, like a water ski, depending on where it is in the orbit. And you would think that during part of that orbit, we would feel, I mean, heck, let me be blunt. We don't feel the rotation. We don't feel us flying around anywhere. So, yeah, it's another aspect.
One of the main questions that came along with that, not to cut you off, and I know I'm going to get flack for this too, because I did you a lot, the other one.
Go ahead.
But one of the main questions is, if it's flat and we're not moving,
mm-hmm.
Why is it they didn't think that we would catch on to this? Because this is kind of a big mistake. I mean, if they know we're going to get the technology eventually to realize that it's a flat Earth, we're not moving. That's like a dead giveaway.
It was never.
So why would they not have?
Yeah, I get what you're going with this. In my opinion, This was never supposed to last forever, like any of the civilizations before us, and we all know there's civilizations that have come and gone on this plane before us. They were only going to every civilization, when they reach a certain level of technology, is going to detect this. It's just a question of when. In our case, roughly 5,000 years of our current civilization. And then we kind of figure out that's a pretty good stretch of time, considering we went, we didn't really figure out anything. Of course, we assumed some things, for the first 4,000 years. But it's once we reached what we call modern times, we never thought twice about it. We just believed what science told us and what NASA told us and what the authority told us. So that lasted for quite a while. We detected it officially. I think we detected it back in the 50s, and then the authorities decide they're just going to hang on to the deception for as long as they can. But yeah, what you're saying here, I don't think it was a design flaw. I don't think that at all. I think that they just, it's like, because I think we could have probably been fooled for much, much longer. I think this is where everything changes and we move into a different phase of our civilization.
Okay, so either one of you two can answer this, because this is a question that I had. The Flat Earth movement, a lot of the people in the Flat Earth movement don't believe that there are aliens or any external beings. And I run into the problem that the flat Earth theory is, well, if it's a created structure, that means something had to have created it.
Yes.
So I don't quite understand how they're coming up with there's no, we call them aliens, call them whatever you want, call it God, call it aliens, whatever.
Yeah.
Why do they say that there is nothing?
Well, we'll answer that question.
Hold that thought. We'll answer that question when we come back.
Your DIY Health with Jim Ram. Thursdays on Truth Frequency Radio.
And we're back, and you're funny, Mark.
Thank you.
You're a funny guy. Going into the last segment already.
So the question about aliens that guy had before he went to break. It's an older question, but I get it all the time, and that is, what role? It's like, look, people say a lot of things about aliens. Are there aliens up there? And what does that mean? I mean, we've all heard the alien stories over the years, decades. We've heard them forever. They go back a long, long time. Does that discount what aliens mean in an enclosed system, in a Truman Show type environment? Not at all. As a matter of fact, it makes them way, way more intimate. Does that mean that any one species or group built this structure? Then we start getting into some weird questions. Did the divine build it? Did God subcontract it out? Is it an advanced civilization? Is it the Anunnaki? Is it the Nephilim? We're not going to know until they reveal themselves, what roles they play, but they do. Whoever's up there, and I have absolutely no doubt there's things flying around up there, and they've been flying around a lot longer than the United States Air Force, in case anyone thinks, it's all the U.S. government. No, it's not. Look up the 1561 Nuremberg event. That'll blow your mind. But I think they take on a whole different role. Who do I think they are? I think they are the older versions of us. I think they are the remnants of the civilizations that were here before ours. How many civilizations were here before ours? I don't know. 5, 10, we don't know, or a whole bunch more. It really, really depends. But they have a role to play, and apparently it's a hands-off policy right now because they're not allowed to come down and say hi to us.
Yeah, but people refer to the aliens like the government or something, like it's one body that all works in unison when a lot of it's compartmentalized. So if you're saying the aliens, you're talking about like an away team, or you're talking about a science team. Don't they have something better to do? Don't they have families to go home to? Like,
I think they do. I think they have regular jobs like we do. I mean, not exactly like we do. I think they're way more elegant. But I've seen, I've taken night vision out, and I've been going out for years and watching these suckers fly around. And a lot of the time, it feels like they're in a commute. Like they get up, they go do whatever they do, because even in Starfleet, everyone had their daily duties. We only saw the exciting stuff, but there were people that all they did was cook.
But we're so vain, though. We think that they're just here exclusively to monitor or check us. And then the classic Star Trek 4, the voyage home, where they go and they had to retrieve a whale back in time.
Yeah.
Because the one alien ship came along, sent out a signal, which sounds like a whale song underwater, and there was no response from the Earth, and basically the thing was going to obliterate Earth, just increasing its signal, wondering where the hell's my child.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I think whoever, the other civilizations are aware of us, and I think some intervene and do some stuff here and there, but for the most part, it's like, yeah, don't mess with the civilization that's currently in the growth process. Right. Because they've got their stuff to do, and you've got your stuff to do, and don't mess around. Again, look up the 1561 Nuremberg event. It's creepy. I won't go into it into detail right now. So
I just pray that there's no Papa Roach in the sky that comes down and looks at us the way we look at cockroaches or other insects and says, you know what? I think this planet's had enough of you, and sprays the equivalent of diatomaceous earth and gets rid of us all. Because so many other species have been eliminated, unfortunately, by our actions.
Yes.
So we have to hope that they're only so intelligent if they're related to any other creature on Earth.
Hey, I'm hoping there's a happy ending. I can't.
Well, yeah.
It's because I'd hate to think that we're just going to get set up for a big fall. Yeah. But we'll see.
I always hope that if a mothership, this is the last thing, that if they come into the sky, that they play some kind of song along the line of like Jaws or something, like something really ominous with big loudspeakers and
thanks, like the dark rated R version of Close Encounters.
Yeah, or trumpets, those loud trumpets, those deep bass trumpets.
Well, if you do that, you're going to wake up the church at that point.
Of course, yeah, but it's for effect. Anyway,
yeah, like the big trumpets they played at the end of Red State, directed by Kevin Smith. Where that's how they got the religious group out of their fortress. They played the what sounded like giant angel trumpets.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a good ploy. It worked.
All right, we got another caller. They've been waiting patiently. Let's get them on here. And out of Dallas, Texas. How you doing?
Hey, Mark, Jonathan. How you guys doing?
Doing good.
Good.
Good. Yeah, this is Wes States with Flat Earth News. Anyhow, I was just listening earlier to the other caller when he was talking about the moon test and whatnot, and it just dawned on me. Just the other night, I was out, outside having a cigarette, and happened to notice the moon was super bright and whatnot, and I'm standing kind of underneath the eave of the garage in the shade, and I just kind of stepped out and went, can't really tell. So then I put my hand down on the shade side and then put my hand in the light side, and what a difference. So technically, you all don't have to do any big, huge tests, which is great that you do that. But if you just want to, just use your hand, and you can tell a huge difference in the temp.
Nice. That's fantastic. Yeah, freak people out.
I mean, I was shocked on how much of a difference, because I laid my hand on the shade side for probably about 10, 15 seconds before I put the other hand, not the same hand, but the other hand onto the light side. Yeah. And it was like a ice cube. It was like literally like putting your hand on ice. That was one thing. And like I said, anybody can do that. Mm-hmm. But I was thinking about some of the things that some of the people I wanted to try to get in on this, and I think one person, which you all would probably agree with me, may or may not be on board. He had his own conspiracy show out there on TV, and it ran for a little bit, and I'm kind of thinking that this started coming down the pipeline, and the minute whoever above got a hold of it, yanked the show off. And I'm referring to Jesse Ventura.
Ah,
interesting.
Former governor of Minnesota.
Oh no, I'm
where I'm calling from.
Yeah, Jesse Ventura, ex-governor of Minnesota, ex-wrestler, ex-Navy SEAL, and former conspiracy guy. Yeah, one of co-star of one of my favorite shows, favorite movies of all time, Predator, with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
He would be again an interesting one to get a hold of. And if anyone out,
that's what I'm doing. I'm working on it, man. I'm working on it. I've got his email and I've got his Facebook, and I'm putting it out there to see if he would. And I didn't even mention Flat Earth, and I don't want to until I talk to him personally. But I would love to have it if he does go for it. Get him onto outlooks or hangouts with you and Jonathan, of course, and anybody else. I'm thinking about like throwing out some invites to,
Sharon,
throwing some invites out to Eric DeBay and Matt Boylan, which I don't know if Matt would ever show up, but it'd be cool if he did, if he knew that Jesse was going to be there.
It's not like it's going to hurt his political career at this point. I mean, he's been on TV, he's been on Opie and Anthony, so I mean, he's out there already.
Sure. If Jesse ever wants to talk, I'd love to speak with Jesse Ventura, because I enjoyed the work that he did, and I wonder if sometimes that he actually argued with the producers on his conspiracy show, because he seemed like he sounded like a real no nonsense guy that really wanted to get things done. It wouldn't surprise me if they tried to turn him in a different direction. So.
Oh, absolutely. And I personally have met him back when he was governor, briefly, and then I also briefly met him back in 1980 when he was a wrestler. And the only reason why I remember that so vividly is I had front row seats. I had brought my future brother-in-law. He was quite young at the time. I think he was 15. I was 19. Yeah. And brought him. I just dated myself, didn't I? But anyhow, we were front row seats, and his girlfriend was sitting two seats from us, and he got thrown over the rope, and it was televised. You could probably catch it, but he got thrown over the rope, and his foot came around and clocked his girlfriend and damn near knocked her out.
Wow.
So that was my meeting with him. I'm over there helping him pick her up, and so I did get on camera, but like I said, I don't know if you could find it on YouTube, that'd be awesome. But
hey, listen, we got to
even bothered search for that.
Yeah, I don't want to cut you off, but we got to go. We got another caller on here, and I thank you so much for that.
No problem, guys.
All right.
Keep going.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
The other caller just dropped. Son of a.
Well,
they do that sometimes.
That's all right. When he picks back up. Before that, there was a.
Do people get nervous? By the way, is it like they know that they're next and then they kind of hang up?
I freak out.
Do you?
Bit. Yeah.
It's almost like they have a good thought and then they hear somebody else talking. They're like, you know what? This isn't really a great question. I'm not ready. Boom.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
There is that. No, it's okay. There was a guy that wrote in. His name was Bill, and he said something about 4 or 5 days before I saw your Flat Earth Clues video. I was sitting on a plane looking out my window, just thinking that there was something wrong with the Earth and the universe everyone was believing. How did I know that places were where they said they were? So as on cue, your video popped into my YouTube, and I watched it thinking it was a joke, of course. By the time I got to the airline routes, which I tried myself, my reality was starting to crumble. Everything started to make much more sense. And then he searched the Bible for verses on the earth and sun, and it just convinced him more and more. And what did he say here? I actually incorporated, here's what I liked, incorporated the flat earth into my creation presentation to a church group and taught it in a class for teenagers at a church camp. The teenagers got it, and they wanted to hear more. However, I got a call that night that I better not talk about the flat earth again the next day. Of course, the adults never came to the class, and admitted that they had never looked into this, but they defended NASA harder than they do the Bible. Let's just say that I talked 3 of the 4 next days before leaving. I decided from that point on I would never teach creation again unless I could teach the truth of what I believe. There you go.
Very cool.
That was from Bill. So yeah, he's spreading the word, and that was really, really cool to listen to. So yeah.
Now let me ask you, because we only have 15 minutes left, if that.
Yeah.
Do you want to ask me any questions? Do you want to save that for another time? Do you want to read mailbags? You tell me.
You know what? At this point, I'm only going to be able to get in one question, so we're going to have to do the Know Thyself Part 2, I think, probably. Uh-oh. Here we go. UFO.
What is
baby
the
in a
magic
sound
word
wave.
you're saying tonight?
I don't know. Wow. That sounds really painful on your side.
That is bizarre.
What people don't know is I'm just sitting up here. Wait, is it me? I won't say anything when it cuts out.
Are you there?
Yeah, I am.
All right, that was the longest one yet.
I'm a little worried now. Sean, if you're doing this, cut it out. We got to finish the show. Where does that sound coming from?
Everything was going fine here. I'm just sitting here minding my own business.
Well, what do we? It's when I talk, isn't it? When we come back, you start talking.
Hey, Mark. I don't know what to say.
It sounds like an energy loop, like a feedback loop.
Where's it? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but then it gets really weird. If it happens again, you want to drop the call and pick me back up?
I'm freaked out.
You don't have the soundboard running, do you?
No, I don't have the soundboard running or anything. It's just some.
All right, let's do this.
Let's just stay. How about now?
It's being queued up by something. If anyone at the NSA, seriously, if any of you guys stop it for a while, we got to finish the show. How about now? Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Weird.
Okay, if it kicks in now, let's just drop me and then pick me right back up.
All right, whoever's doing this.
Normally I'd say you were messing with me.
I am not messing with you, man. It's freaking me out in my ears.
Yeah, because you're wearing a new set of headphones, right?
Yeah, they're Sony studio monitors. They're really good.
I'm dying to know what it sounds like on playback. People are gonna trying to decipher what's going on if it's not.
Maybe it's the UFOs, the aliens, because I made a comment.
Or we actually answered a question about the aliens. Yeah, maybe.
Perhaps. Maybe it's a signal to say you're on the right track. Do you have one question you want to ask me, or you want to save it for next time?
No. Let's save it. Let's save it because I'd like to. I mean, because I got a bunch of questions. I don't want to ask you just one question.
Okay.
I'm going to save it for another show. But I do have more stuff that came in. Interesting stuff. Like for example, Jay writes. Mark, remember the Neil deGrasse Tyson tweet about kicking the football and hitting the goal post because of the Coriolis effect?
Mm-hmm.
I actually got a response from a professional football player.
Okay.
Mark, I really appreciate your videos, and Eric DeBays. I have to give him kudos because he was the first I saw. I hope there's peace between you two. I hope so too. Just wanted to let you know that I played 9 years of professional football, American kind, and knew many place kickers and punters. I know for a fact that they never took the Coriolis effect when they kicked their field goals. Take care. You and Jonathan make a great duo on the vids. Very entertaining. P.S. You should probably get a pro golfer that knocks the crap out of the ball off the tee and ask them if they take the rotation of the Earth into consideration. Take care, Jay. And I actually looked up his email address, reversed it, and he actually is a pro ball player. Played, what do you say, 9 years? That's about right.
Sweet.
Yeah, it was really cool. He played in the 80s.
Well, let me ask you a question. That brings up a good point. Who in the mainstream or which celebrities do you know of any that currently believe in the flat Earth, or who do you think will be the first? And I don't consider Jesse Ventura a celebrity in that sense.
No, well, not anymore. I mean, when he was governor, yeah. maybe he could have done it. But I don't know. I mean, I like Jesse Ventura, but as far as the celebrities go, I think it's going to go the other way. I think someone is going to pick it up. I think a celebrity is going to pick it up, but in a negative way, and they're going to get attention that way.
You mean like Kylie Jenner or some crap?
Well, yeah, Kylie Jenner's got millions of Twitter followers. And she thinks she knows something about chemtrails. I wish he'd say something about flat Earth, even positive or negative. But what I'm getting at is all you need is one big celebrity or news person or whatever to go at it from a different angle and say, this flat Earth stuff is ridiculous. I can't believe we're talking about it. I can't believe it's a topic. And once they tweet that, once they do that, people will pick up on it, which is why I think that Joe Rogan may have even done it deliberately. He's probably at home cursing me if he's listening to this, but it's true. He brought it 3 different times on 3 different shows and said, "Oh yeah, flat Earth's ridiculous." And you wonder if it's a backhanded way of him bringing it up.
Perhaps.
And I think that Alex Jones should do the same thing.
By the way, if you have Twitter, like she has a lot of followers, are they considered twits? Like silly or foolish people? That's how I think of them. But anyway.
Nice. Yeah. I'd love for her to mention it. Just even in passing. I don't care. Even bad publicity is going to be good publicity here because they're going to talk about it. So, no worries. As far as who the celeb is, I don't know who the celeb is going to be, but I want it to be, as long as the word gets out, I don't care how it gets out.
Now, if my favorite person comes out with it, like Neil Tyson or somebody big, Stephen Hawking, somebody, then it would just what? Then what would happen?
Well, Neil deGrasse Tyson can't bring it up, unfortunately, because it's his own letter of resignation if he does it.
No, I know, but would they do to him what they did to Will Smith in Enemy of the State? Would they like totally upside down his life?
Set him up if they did. Oh yeah. He can't. He's too much of a poster boy. He's one of their only defenders right now.
Right.
Because who else are you going to wheel out to go against it? And besides, you can already tell what side he's on. I mean, the fact that he tweeted to the NFL Network that the Coriolis effect stopped that field goal from glancing outside of the goalpost.
Well, no, that's why I bring it up, because what you just brought up with the football player email. But what I'm saying is, at what point, because he's a smart guy, I don't refute him being smart, right? Mm-hmm. What I'm saying is, what point do you calculate, okay, do I have more time to continue to be a gatekeeper for the powers that be, the people I work for, right, and get a nice fat paycheck and celebrity?
Yeah.
Or is my time running out where the wrath of the people that are going to be so effing pissed and are willing to kill me for perpetuating this lie, like which is greater? Do I risk losing my job and my credentials, putting that on the line, or do we only have 6 months or a year before this thing goes blown wide open? I should start siding with the people with the truth before the pitchforks and torches come for me.
Well, yeah, and that was going to be my kind of behind the scenes conversation with whoever it is. If it's Neil, honestly, if I had a chance to meet Neil in a private environment, he knew we weren't being recorded or anything, that's what I was going to put to him. I was going to say, look, you've got to, you don't have much of a window here. You've got to you're going to either get in front of this thing or try to direct it in a way you want it, or you're going to have to get behind it and just, let us take point, because if you stand in the way of this thing, you're going to be a recluse for the remainder of your life. You're going to have to draw your shades and never come out of your house.
And there's no mea culpas with a mob scene that wants blood. I mean, it's almost like he'll be like, everything's all right, but calm down, and everything's fine. He's gonna be like Kevin Bacon at the end of Animal House. They're just gonna trample over him.
All is well.
Yeah.
All is well. Yeah. He's, the smartest thing, honestly, for Neil to do, even though I know he won't do it because he won't be able to. It's not his decision in the long run, because he's bought and paid for, is that he should write a book. He should already have a book already ready to go, ghost written and the whole 9 yards, that said, how didn't we know? How did we miss it? Something to that effect. Right. The most obvious, some clever title about how every physicist in the world missed this. And they're going to say, it's not their fault because it was based on previous, long dead other, previous physicists who would, base their stuff on a bad foundation.
And I'll even help him out further. I'll give him a book title right now. He can call it Plan C, because we never had a Plan B. How do you like that?
That's good. That's really good. Plan C. That's simple.
Just came up with that.
That's really good. Neil, listen to this. Seriously, get a ghostwriter right now. You can have somebody start whipping up this thing on, keep it real hush hush.
Have it on demand, and when people start coming, just release it to the public. Cover your butt.
Yeah, because unfortunately, he would. I mean, talk about your proverbial thrown under the bus. He would be like the guy. I remember that one scene in the original Dead Zone with Christopher Walken and Martin Sheen, when he looked at when he saw the future, when Christopher Walken saw the future, and he was on the cover of Newsweek, the presidential candidate, no future for Stilson. I keep saying that with like Neil deGrasse Tyson on every magazine cover, hanging his head, lies, some horrible thing. But yeah, he'll be the guy, because unfortunately, if you're the front man, what are you gonna do? Anyway, we'll see. A few minutes left. Hang on, I got one more. Let me throw one more out, and then we can just
do it up. Yeah.
This one's from Kelly. Kelly says, my fiance was an airborne ranger in the late 1980s. Too many stories to tell, and he had a general contractor's license ever since in 10 states. We work in dirt and rock and never had to account for any kind of curvature in construction. Also, we do not believe in a round, tilted, spinning ball. Erosion would run it in a southward direction and not span in all directions, as we counter every day. As hard as it was to swallow, he admits it must be flat. And then she sent me a bunch of cool little pictures. So, right on.
I love it.
Yeah. How many more people do we need? And yeah, I mean, I'm looking for more people. We had that string of people that you and I interviewed on Strange World. The missile instructor, the submarine guy, the flight instructor, the surveyor, the career surveyor, and there was one more. The industrial engineer.
Right.
And they're all saying the same thing. Nobody's contradicting anything. They're all saying the same thing. It's like, look, it's flat.
Right.
It's never been a globe. So.
And by the way, to the listening audience, I have some other guests that are coming on yet. We're going to do pre-records because of their tight schedules. Besides Flat Earth, Lisa Wilson from the Raw Food Institute, a bunch of others. I just don't want to say anything yet, because then you'd be like, well, when are they going to be on? And it's really hard. It's coordinating time with people, because now I'm on at midnight. So if I'm on the East Coast, they can't all come on this late. Thankfully, Mark's now in Washington, so this lines up really well.
Yeah, it does work, because I get to start at 9. Unfortunately, you stay up later than I do.
Yeah, it doesn't matter to me.
I'm usually, warm milk in bed by like 8, but I can stay up. I'm kidding. Warm milk does work, though.
Does it?
It's a chemical thing, apparently.
I could drink espresso and go right to sleep. It doesn't matter.
Really?
Yeah.
Of course, it doesn't help people that are vegans. But
I don't know.
Well, I'm just saying.
I have no idea.
Anyway, what do you want? It's your show. What do you want to end on?
I don't know.
We got a minute.
That's all we got is a minute.
I don't know what I'm doing next, as far as next week yet. It may be mailbag, because I've got so many mail things stacking up. And I, by the way, I apologize. People, by the way, if you're going to try to text me on my phone, it's better if you email me, because I check that way more often than I do my phone. I don't carry my phone with me. I just check it every so often. And I mean, voicemails are great, fantastic. Leave them if you can. And again, if you want to talk to me, as far as you want to come out forward and say, hey, look, I deal with a career that proves the Earth is flat, please, I want to talk to you.
Yeah, right on. So. And again, call into the show. Thank you for the comments I read on Mark's channel. And with that, we'll see you soon. Mark?
Hey, it was fun.
Thanks, buddy.
See you, man.